Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials on any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com.
Today we are going to talk about web servers and HTTP server in particular. Okay, so let's choose a color here. All right, so why are we talking about web servers? What's the reason we are talking about web servers, although we are in the DevOps discussions? What's the use of web servers there? So there are a couple of things that we need to know. First is because DevOps is dev plus ops. Can you guys hear me? I got a comment that I'm not audible.
Yes, I'm able to hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So because DevOps is DevOps, yeah, it tries to move all the operational activities towards the development world, right? And if you want to be a good DevOps engineer, you need to understand basics of application development and application hosting. Yeah. So mostly people work with web applications on DevOps, and that's why you should know how to host web applications. So that's one of the reasons you should know web servers, right? Because developers or application deployment happens on web servers, right? Then most of your infrastructure, for example, your Jenkins, your monitoring tools, your visualization tools, many DevOps tools also run as web applications, right? So you have, Jenkins. mm, if you host your own Git service like on premises, Bitbucket or GitHub Enterprise or whatever, it also runs on web-based infrastructure, right? So those also require web servers, and you should know how they are hosted for any debugging or for any maintenance of them, right? So your infra also runs on web servers, right? Now, what is a web server? In pretty simple layman terms, a web server is nothing but a computer. It may be a virtual computer or a physical computer. These days, it's also containers, which can host your web pages, right? A computer which can host your web pages and can render them to people or transfer them to people when they demand it, right? So if you have some clients, or maybe a mobile client or a traditional, desktop. It's not exactly a desktop, but yeah, a desktop client which want we want to browse certain application via browser, then they will hit this web server and the web server will respond with the web pages. Okay, web server responds with the web pages. Now the response is always over either HTTP or HTTP secure, right? That means this is a static content that is served. Okay, so this communication happens via HTTP or HTTPS, and this web server serves the static pages. Always the data that is transferred is a static data. Now this data can contain some scripts, but that those scripts may execute on the browser. For example, JavaScript or your CSS, they are executed on the browser, but not on the web servers. Web servers may have in the back end some sort of back end scripts which are used to generate the data, the HTML data, but at the end it's a static data that is transferred. All right, so this is a web server. Now we are going to talk about two web servers, one today and one in the next session, and the two web servers are Apache2, right, and Nginx. Okay, Apache2 is a plain minimal web server, and it's pretty simple, pretty basic, nothing complicated, and no need to no fuss anywhere, right? It's all basic web server. Nginx is also a web server, but it is also a very powerful proxy server, right? So we will talk about proxy and proxy server in our Nginx discussion. Today we are going to talk about Apache2. Right now, Apache2, as the name suggests, is developed by Apache Foundation, which is kind of the leader on open source technologies. So it is also known as HTTPD. Right? Depends on which operating system you are installing and all that. The common name is HTTPD, but it is also known as Apache2. Right? So if I go to my browser and go to Apache2, here you go. This is the Apache2 homepage, but nowhere it is called as Apache2, right? It's always HTTPD. Yeah. But yeah, Apache2 is also popular name for this. All right, so now let's get started with it. Today, what we are going to learn is how do we set up this part, the static web server. Right? How do we set this up and how we enable our HTML content over HTTP. Okay, please note we are not going to learn HTML. You should know HTML or you can learn it later. We are not going to concentrate on HTML. All right. Also, we are going to use PHP because I want to demonstrate how some dynamic generation of HTML content can happen. For that, we will also see how you can use some CGI scripts, not CG, yeah, CGI scripts um, to write your dynamic content and render it and then send it across to the clients. Okay, so it's going to be a very simple session. I will not deep dive too much in detail because that's not required for your daily work, and I don't want to confuse you at all. Okay, so let's install Apache. Now, depending on which operating system you are on, the installation may differ. Okay, but it's basically same commands, but with using different package managers, for example. So this is an Ubuntu machine which I have set up. So I'm going to connect to it. Give me 1 second. All right, this is the Ubuntu machine here. Yep, 2004. Right, and let's install Apache 2. So first thing is let's update all the packages from the repositories in the cache. And while it is happening, if I go to the documentation and I go to downloads, you can see here either I can download the entire source. Now it's an open source project, so you can download the entire source and then compile it and install it. Right? and or you can download the binaries just like that and put it somewhere. So you can download the binaries in zip format, unzip them and start using them. Or you can download for Windows as well, right? But we are not going to do any of that, although you can do it, right? If you want to explore what is actually happening inside Apache HTTP server, you can download the source code and go through it. We are not going to do that. If you want, we can go to the binaries and you see we have the binaries here. We can download it, right? But as we all know, Ubuntu and CentOS and many other Linux distributions, they provide package managers. So for Ubuntu, we have apt, right? So there is Apache available to be installed via apt, and we can install it as apt install Apache 2. This is going to install on our system, right? If you are on CentOS or Red Hat based systems, then this command will not work. So you have to use its own package manager, right? Which is called Yum. Yum stands for Yellow Dog Update Module. So you have to use Yum. But in CentOS, it's not called as Apache 2. So in CentOS machines, you will have to do Yum install HTTPD. Okay. So because we are not on CentOS, we are not going to do this. We will do apt install Apache 2. And just like that, Apache is installed. Now, because it's a server, it should have a service running, right? The Apache application should run in the background. So we need to check if Apache service is up and running. So can anyone help me here on how to check a service? Does anyone know any commands to do that?
systemctl
Okay,
status
and the service name.
service Apache.
So if I say systemctl status Apache 2, I get this. Thank you for your input. And you can see that Apache is active, right? And the service definition is defined in /lib/systemd/system Apache2 service. Okay, now this file can differ if you are on CentOS or any other distribution. For Ubuntu, it's /lib/systemd system Apache2.service. Okay, let's take a look at this file. What does it say? It says, this is the part of interest for us. It says that when the service starts, it should run this command /user/sbin/apache-ctl start. When service stops, it should be apache-ctl stop. Okay, so that means, what does that mean? That means that a utility called apache-ctl is also installed for us. Now we can use it to start our server or stop our server. Okay, or basically many times it is used to restart the servers. All right, great. Now this Apache 2 web server is installed. What does that mean? And it is also running. That means that our web server is already ready. We are ready to use it. Let's go to the browser. Let's get the IP address of this machine. And let's come here, press enter. Apache 2 default page is up. Right? So this is the default page that is installed by Apache 2 or HTTPD. When you first install, by default, you will see this. And very important information is also displayed here. So Apache 2 is installed at this location /etc/Apache2, and you have an Apache2.conf. You have mods enabled, you have conf enabled, you have sites enabled. We will see all that in a bit. All right, and below you have some information. For example, the default document root is var www.html. What is document root? What is this? We'll come back to it later. All right. Okay, done. Our installation is done and our default web page is open. Now we will see how we can serve our own custom web pages. But before that, let's take a look at some very important Apache files. What happens, what Apache gave us when we installed HTTPD. So Apache HTTPD or Apache 2 is installed in etc Apache 2. Now this folder will change. If you are on CentOS, you will be looking at etc HTTPD, right? But inside this folder, your contents should be same. So here we have a lot of folders. Conf available, conf enable, mods available, mods enable, lot of things. We will see about them later, right? First thing that we should do is take a look at Apache2.conf. This is the basic configuration file for Apache. And a lot of comments here, right? Commented out things, and these are important. You should go through them, but right now we will not. And there you see it has global configurations. All right, everything is commented out. We will come back to all this. So many configurations for Apache are stored in environment variables. You can see there is a directive here called default runtime dir, yeah, and the value for the directive is coming from an environment variable. There is another directive called PID file, and again it's coming from an environment variable. Okay, so this conf file is nothing but a set of directive. Okay, so there is a directive called timeout, and this is a global directive. It is applicable to entire Apache. So you have timeout, and that is 300 seconds, right? So if a web service is not, a web page is not served within 300 seconds, then Apache will time out and it will throw an error to the client, right? Keep alive on is going to set the persistent connections, right? Maximum request is 100. So these are all the directives which are used in Apache configurations, right? So error log. So where are the logs? Error logs saved? They will be saved in Apache log dir environment variable, right? What is the default log level? It is a warning. You can change it to debug or you can change it to info. Okay. Now what you see, include optional. So what does this mean? This means that all the configurations defined in these directories will also be included. All the configuration defined in ports.conf will be included, right? So this main configuration has a lot of configurations, but it also includes configurations defined in these directories. So mods enable directory / anything that ends with .load, and mods enable directory / anything that ends with .conf. So all the configurations from here and here are loaded. So we will go to these directories and see what they're doing. Then include ports.conf. So ports.conf is also included, right? And then there are some other directory configurations. We will come back to these. And access file name is .htaccess. So if you want to set up some permissions, you can set up access in .htaccess in this folder. But yeah, right now we are not going to do that. Then in which format the log will be generated. So again, not going to go into much detail, but you can define how do you see your logs. Okay, we will go to logs later. Then again, include optional. So include everything inside conf enabled, include everything inside sites enabled, all the conf files. All right. So this top level documentation or top level configuration is quite minimal. It is set up to govern the entire Apache web server. Then you will have a lot more configurations coming in from these subdirectories which have these conf files. All right. Okay. Now there is a file called envvars here. This file sets up our environment variables which will be used by Apache. Okay. If I print the envvars, you can see a lot of environment variable setup. For example, Apache log dir. This is the log directory location. And this environment variable was being used in our apache.conf, right? So log dir will be stored in var log apache2. Dollar suffix. So there is something added as a suffix here. This value of this variable is added as a suffix here. Now this variable is defined somewhere here. You see some suffix here. Whatever this is, let's not go into much detail here. Okay, Apache PID file will be stored here. What is a PID file? PID file acts as a lock for Apache. So ideally what happens in is whenever Apache2 service runs, it stores its process ID in this file. So if I print this file, I can see, yeah, apache2.pid. So I can see that the process ID of Apache2 is 2160. So what is the use of storing this PID file? Well, if you start one more Apache server instance here, right, it will fail to start because it will say that PID file already has some information. So this PID file acts as a lock as well, so that you do not run multiple servers, right? So that's why this PID file is created and it stores the runtime data. All right. There is also special log file as well, which also acts as a lock. Right now it's not used, so nothing inside. But yeah, we have this PID file which will act as a lock. Okay. Any questions? Everything clear? Let me go to the chat box. Is envvar part of Apache or Ubuntu? So envvar is part of Apache2. This is provided by Apache when you install etc Apache2. Okay. Questions? Is it part of HTTPD? Yes, it's part of the Apache 2 web server. For CentOS, yes, in HTTPD. Do you guys want to see how it is installed on CentOS as well? We can take a look. Okay, all right. So maybe some of you are interested in CentOS. So let's create a CentOS instance as well. So although CentOS is kind of out of support now, let's search for it. There's nothing for CentOS. Okay, we have it. CentOS 7 we have. Right, let's use it. Let's see, it looks like there is some sort of, because it's not a default AMI provided by AWS, it's a vendor provided AMI. So it may take some time to launch the instance. So, but guys, yeah, keep in mind, CentOS is like out of support now. Red Hat has pulled the plug on CentOS. So either you use Red Hat Enterprise Linux or you use some other distro like Ubuntu or Alpine or whatever. CentOS is not a good way to go. All right, it is launching. Yep, this is our CentOS 7. Let's give it some time to come up. In the meanwhile, we can also see that there is Red Hat Enterprise Linux, right? So you can use RHEL as well. I will suggest to use this always. Okay, so we have CentOS up. Let's connect to it. Yep, and the connection to this instance would be a bit different. Just give me one sec. Yeah, username is CentOS. Let's connect via web browser itself. What? Okay. Let's try from our SSH client. Okay, so we are connected to CentOS here. Right, let's change this connection to a different color so that we can identify that this is a CentOS instance. So this is CentOS. Let's run a quick yum update to build up the cache. Yep, nope, we don't want to install anything else. Now we'll say app yum install httpd. Okay, so it will install HTTPD, and any dependencies also it will install, for example, HTTPD tools to send emails, mailcap, and blah blah blah, -y, so that it takes our consent as well. So we are correct. Now it is installed on CentOS. Now if I browse to this IP address and just land here, I don't see anything, right? I don't see anything. What does that mean? That means let's check the service. Systemctl status Apache2 HTTPD, and it says service is loaded but inactive. So what shall we do to start this service? Any idea?
Thanks for watching. Want to study further? Join our training programs today.